But I'm Ruth Knott. I'm the Managing Director of Opera Parallel. We're so happy you're here. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off. And I introduce you to General and Artistic Director Nicole Paiement, who is going to fill us in on some of the details of the season. And keep your questions for the end. We'll have a lot of time for Q&A, and you'll have some fun questions for participants in our season who are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that many of you have a very full schedule, so to take the time to join us means a lot to us. And I want to say that everyone that has this beautiful green background is either part of the OP staff, but also artists that have, many of them that have joined us this evening, and designers. So everyone that has this beautiful green background is part of our season in some way. And I want to especially thank them for joining us on their busy schedule of being many of them in productions and work. So yes, I am extremely excited to launch this season. Opera Parallel this year, of course, will continue to stage relevant stories that speak of the human condition. But we are also engaging a really large number of diverse artists this year because we are telling very different stories in very different venues. And I hope that the productions that we are putting on the stage this year will really trigger not only emotions during the time that you are in the space, but also trigger conversations after you have seen these productions, that they will move you enough that you can actually talk about them afterwards, which is something that we truly believe with Opera Parallel, that opera has that impact of creating community and creating conversations. One of the great things about our year is also that we have this year all living composers and librettists in our season, which is very exciting. So here is a little kind of fun way to start our kickoff. Thank you, Daniel. It's a beautiful video that Daniel Harvey has prepared for us, which basically, in a very nutshell, puts in the variety of the three productions that we will be presenting. So the video started with our first production, which is opening in October, called The Emissary, which is going to be presented at the ODC Theater. And this is part of our hands-on opera, which is a very special program for Opera Parallel, where we actually engage with people from our community and we bring them on the stage to perform beside professional singers. We really believe with Opera Parallel that the experience of not only being observers, but really participating and engaging in an opera can really make a difference for people to fall in love with the art form. This opera addresses environmental issues and family dynamics. Actually, one of the beautiful things is it's an opera that speaks about intergenerational. It's an intergenerational story where there's a grandfather and a young character. So this opera is very relevant to come not only with your family, with your kids, but also to come with your whole complete family, with grandpa, grandma, old uncle, that to really feel that there's a feeling of family in there. It will be a world premiere by composer Kenji Oh, who is writing his first opera, and Kelly Rourke as a librettist, who's written many librettos. So both of them together creating this team. The singers for this productions are going to be the team, the creative team. So as I said, Kenji Oh, the composer, and Kelly Rourke, librettist, whom I will speak with in a little while. In the role of Mume is Angela Yam, and in the role of Yoshiro, the grandfather, is Bradley Kinaut. And then we have as a guest director Yayoi Kambara, who has joined us as before as a choreographer with us, is doing her premiere as a director of the opera. We have Matthew Linzer, who will be the scenic and costume designer, Spence Matubang, who is the lighting designer. I will be joined by Jaco Wang, who is associate conductor and will be conducting one of the performances. And Tony Asaro is the chorus director of Lick Wilmerding High School, who is preparing the chorus that will join us. And on top of that chorus, there will also be a few young women from San Francisco Girls Chorus, who last year were so excited in performing in The Shining that have decided to join us and continue the experience of experiencing opera. And what's great about also the emissary is that these chorus members, the way the opera is written, some of them get to have some solo lines in the opera, get to become another character. So they're not only getting the experience of being a chorus, but they're also getting perhaps a first solo presentation of their singing on stage, which is very exciting. Then we will move to the SF Jazz, which is a place at the Minor Auditorium at SF Jazz in April, a place that Opera Parallèle loves to go to in a co-presentation of Birds and Balls. As many of you know, we at Opera Parallèle like to sew together shorter operas, bring them together and find kind of a uber story, a bigger story that brings them together. And we actually felt that there was a unique opportunity with both of these operas that are shorter, 40 to 45 minutes opera, to explore the impact of competition in a very fun and entertaining way. Birds, which is written by David Little and on a libretto by Royce Vavrek, deals with a very interesting sport, Vinkensport, which is actually a true sport that deals with, it's a Flemish folk. I have to always read it. I'm not very good at explaining this competition, but it basically is a competition where contestants compete to see who has the most melodious bird. And it's actually a true competition. Now, the competition is not really about the birds. The competition is about the people that are training those birds. And what happens is that through this competition, we get to hear the backstories of who these people are and really start to study the human condition and what triggers their private lives. Then we'll have kind of a halftime moment in the opera where the net of the bird net is going to transform into a tennis net. And we are going to be in a tennis club, and we're going to go to balls. And balls is the competition, the famous competition of the Battle of the Sexes with Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. And again, this is kind of a surreal competition where it's much bigger than the fact of this tennis match. But what goes on in the mind of these people when they are competing and the impact of winning that competition for human rights for Billie Jean King. So under the umbrella of having this very fun evening, wonderful music where the two composers that have actually agreed to make an orchestration, same orchestration, so that we can really feel it's one piece, we will move for two different lenses on the idea of what competition is. We have an amazing cast for this production. We have as Marilyn, Billie Jean King's partner, lover, Tiffany Austin. This is a jazz singer that's incorporated in the production. We have, and these are in alphabetical order, but I'll just move around a little bit. As Billie Jean King, we have Nicolas Prince. We have Shanette Salker, who is actually, and I'm just giving them right now the balls role because they actually have another bird's role. They are also playing in birds as the competitors with the birds, but you can read them rather than me telling all that, so we can get to questions on that. So I'm just going to, actually, I'm going to jump and just give the names of the singers. So we have for this production, Tiffany Austin, Jamie Chamberlain, Daniel Seeley, that many of you have heard in The Shining, Nathan Grainer, who you've had an opportunity to see in many of our production, Mark Hernandez, who is going to have a speaking role. The last time he did a speaking role was with us in Champion. Chelsea Hollow, a beautiful coloratura that has been with us for a long time. Gabriela Linares, Nicola Prince, Shanette Sulker, that is very well known in our community, and Chung Wei Song. So a wonderful group of singers that will be first in the Birds opera and then will transform into new characters joining us on the tennis match. We have a wonderful creative team also for this production. If we can move this slide to the next slide, we have as composer of Birds and Balls, we have David Little, who will join in a conversation in a little bit. Royce Vavrek, the librettist. Composer Laura Karpman is the composer for Balls, with the librettist Gail Collins. So they are the creative team. Brian Stappenbill will be directing this production. David Murakami will be doing the projection designer. This will be a very immersive experience. We will truly transform SF Jazz into an experience where the audience will feel they are sitting at the tennis and at the competition with the birds. We have Sharon Peng returning with costume and hair and makeup, and Mexcli Cousin as lighting designer. So a lovely team of artists for that. Finally, in June, during Pride Month, we are very, very happy to finally be bringing fellow travelers to San Francisco. We have wanted to do this opera for a very long time, and with COVID had to delay this presentation. But it's an opera that has been close to our heart for a very long time, because this story goes beyond being political, which is something that opera can do, and this opera does that. Of course, it shines light on a very important part of the LGBTQ history with the Lavender Scare, but it's truly a sad and tender love story of two men, and sadly, the story still resonates very well today, and it's very important to have those conversations. The way that the librettist has crafted this story goes really beyond the political background. It really brings back the atmosphere of secrecy and paranoia of the period, and also of deep love for two men. And the music of Greg Spears, I think many of you know Greg's very lyrical and beautiful music, just really underspins that passion, that forbidden passion. So it's a beautiful score, and we're very thrilled to be doing that. We are going to be co-presented by the Presidio Theater for this production in June. Again, we have a beautiful cast for this production. Joining us for the first time, Jonathan Pierce Rhodes, who is with us tonight. We'll have a conversation with him a little bit later. Joseph Lapanzi, Maya Kerani, Kurt Winterhalter, Elena Galvan, Cara Gabrielson, Daniel Seeley, and Bradley Kinnard, who is also in The Emissary. So a beautiful team of very dedicated singers. Of course, Gregory Spears and Greg Pierce, that we will have an opportunity to speak with in a minute, are the creative team. For this production, we have a guest conductor, James Kirksey. Some of you might have seen James last 2 years, or no, was it last year, as my associate conductor for Harriet Spirit. One of the things that Opera Parallèle likes to do is also to give opportunities to directors, conductors that really need that next step to create a career. James is definitely one of those amazing young conductors that need that experience, and I'm thrilled to be working with James on preparing him to do his first major work with Opera Parallèle. Brian Stappenbill will be directing the opera, Jacqueline Scott, who did the sets for The Shining. Those of you who have seen it will be returning with us for the scenics and props. Sharon Peng, again, will be costume, hair, and Mexley Cousin, the lighting designer. So a very beautiful team of designers to work with. So I will and I should say that this is not part of our season, but Opera Parallel has actually been very fortunate to now have their production really starting to not only be co-produced in collaboration with other companies, but also been renting out. Companies have been renting our companies, and tomorrow night, our production of The Shining will be opening for 11 performances, nine 9 performances in Atlanta with the Atlanta Opera, and Brian Stauffenbiel, who is joining us, is actually from there in Atlanta right now, having just finished staging it again. It will be a beautiful production that will then travel to other companies in the next few years, but this is the first reiteration of our production, and it's happening tomorrow night. So if you happen to be traveling tomorrow morning to Atlanta and want to see the production, or in the next few weeks, you might be able to see The Shining. So I will take a few minutes to just have a conversation with some of our creative team, because as you well know, I'm a huge fan of living composers and librettists. It's one of the great joy of my career is to be able to work with living artists. So my first team, we'll start with the emissary. And so Kenji O and Kelly Rourke here are there. And I'm going to ask a question that they can both speak to. And the question is, how does this story of the emissary reflect the environmental issues of our time? And what would you like the audience to take away from the emissary? And maybe one can take the one and the other, or you can answer both. And maybe we start with you, Kenji.
Okay, environmental issue is everywhere nowadays, and back of that, I think there's a social issues as a symptoms too. And in this opera, we address a lot of weird stuff in terms of environmental issues, but at the same time, we address the symptoms of society making bad decision, like nationalism or totalitarianism or xenophobia, or those things are addressed or put as a satire in this opera. I think these are all connected, and we make bad decisions to pollute environment because of these society problem too. So I like audience to see what's wrong with this society. At the same time, this odd dystopian future, even in this situation, the main character Mume lives so positively. He sees the world really positive way, and it's so encouraging, and I like audience to feel the positiveness of this Mume character.
Thank you. Yes. Kelly.
I mean, in a way, Kenji covered a lot of it, but I'll see if I have anything else to add to that. This story is in many ways an inevitable result of a lot of things that we see going on. It takes place in the very near future, and a few steps further down nationalism, down destroying the environment. It takes place in a dystopian world where everything is mutated, where the old are going to live forever and the young are going to die very soon. And when I start describing it to people, they say, "Oh my gosh, that sounds really dark." And that frame is dark. And yet, as Kenji said, there's so much lightness because against the backdrop of this terrible world that we can all see ourselves heading toward, there's this really tender, beautiful relationship, and these two people caring for each other, and intensely, okay, they can't change the world, but they can make each other's life as positive as they can. And I think, for me, that's the takeaway. It can be so easy to be overwhelmed We're so far down this road and we've made so many mistakes. And you can say, well, what can we do? And I think what we can do is find the ways that we can care for the planet and care for each other.
Yeah, well said, Kelly. And I will say that at the end of there is a canon that was written in the opera that kind of is presented in various moments during the piece. But at the end, this canon is sung by all the cast member, and it's a beautiful lullaby of love, I think, and friendship, and that goes beyond the earthly matters, and it really elevates us to think that we can, if we stay together, if we get hold together, there is hope. So there's a lot of hope in this opera, and I am very excited to be premiering this world premiere with everyone. And thank you. They have been working on this opera for the last 2 years, so it's quite an honor for us to mount it in San Francisco. So thank you. We'll be seeing you at the ODC Theater, which is a lovely space for us to perform in. My next person is David Little. David, hello. Wonderful.
Hello.
Composer that I've admired for so long. And David, you wrote this amazing piece that it's so typical of who you are, this satire, yet so smart and so deep in mixture. It's beautiful. So your opera is often paired with other work, this opera, because it's a shorter piece.
Yeah.
What's exciting about this pairing with Both?
Well, it's interesting when a piece, like you said, it is a shortish, I think it's about 40 minutes or so. And so it kind of has to be paired. And it's been really fascinating over the years to see what it gets paired with and how that changes the piece in a way. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time it has been paired with a sport. It's the first time it's been paired with tennis. It was paired once with horse racing. I love Laura's music, and it's been so great to get to know her. And I'm obsessed with Gail Collins' Times columns. So it's like, I'm very excited about the whole thing. And I think the framing of it is really brilliant. And I can't wait to see how it all comes together and what, being juxtaposed next to this historic tennis match is going to do to illuminate the lives of our, sort of common anonymous bird competitors in Flanders. I think it'll be really exciting.
Thank you for writing this piece. It's really, I am quite amazed how you can capture the end of the spectrum of emotions, of laughter and deep sorrow. It's wonderful. Thank you for writing it. And finally, we have both also of our creative team, composer Gregory Spears and librettist Greg Pierce joining us for Fellow Travelers. So I will ask one question to you both, and again, thank you for writing such a deep and important piece in the repertoire. Your opera feels even more relevant, sadly, today than when it was premiered in 2016, which is unusual for a young contemporary work. How has your understanding of this story or these characters evolved over the time from when you wrote it to 2023? And maybe we can start with the librettist this time.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. How has my understanding evolved? I mean, what really attracted me to the story, to Thomas Smallin's novel, when I set out to do the adaptation with Greg Spears, was the psychological pressures under that these two men were under, who were really in love with each other. Excuse me, and trying to have a relationship and try to have all the things in life that we all want, a great job and all of these things, when they weren't allowed to do this. This is mid-century, late 40s and 50s under McCarthy, and gay people, especially, ones who had jobs in the State Department, everything was at risk. So that sort of intersection for me of the sort of psychological and the political, I thought was really fascinating. I guess I hadn't thought much before about what does that do to your relationships? You know, what does that do to your friendships? When your country that you love and that you're working for is telling you you can't have these fundamental things. So, I mean, sadly, to your point about how it's still relevant, you know, we're in an era where rights have been taken away from various groups of people, and it's heartbreaking to watch. And it's a good reminder of not only sort of what's a crime now that wasn't a crime 2 years ago, but also how devastating for interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, thank you. Gregory?
Oh, let's see. Following Greg Pierce is always hard, but an honor. I'm so happy that you're doing this piece, and I'm happy you're doing it in the Bay Area, which of course has always been a kind of, I feel like, spiritual home for LGBT community. I think I like what you said, Nicole, about love, and I think that opera does love very well, and not just sentimental love, but how love is really hard and how it's full of such complexity, and not even just complexity, but like direct paradox, like to be in love and to be absolutely terrified at the same time. Like, what does that feel like? And I sometimes say a little bit joking that if you want to learn about like the lavender scare, you're going to learn more in some ways in 30 seconds reading Wikipedia than watching this opera. But what opera is good about doing is bringing you to the emotional core of something. And so that something that might feel abstract or might feel like facts starts to bore into your heart. And that's what makes it worth this incredibly, elaborate, productions and orchestras and these incredibly dedicated young singers. And so for me, coming back to that and watching new generations of singers connect to these characters whom they may or may not relate to directly, they may not have lived in the closet, they may not have grown up in a world in which being gay could have you lose your job, but then to still connect through opera to one of opera's great topics, which is love, and how love is so often impossible, and how it hurts us and at the same time feeds us, is the most important thing. So that's what I keep coming back to.
Well said. And, to be honest, it is true that opera does that. And opera, is a very complete art form with, as you said, the stage, the costumes and all of that. But I can just see all of that without the sets, the costumes, the lighting. Not that we're going to do it that way, we're going to stage it, but the way that those words and the music speaks about love, we feel that complete emotion just from the score, which is not every opera does that. So kudos to you. And there's a reason why Fellow Travelers has become one of the very much performed opera, and Opera Parallèle does not often do works then we try to sort of find the works that need to be done. This one doesn't really need to be done because it's done quite a bit, but you're right, it needed to be done in San Francisco, or what an honor for us to do it in San Francisco, but we felt we needed to do it. So that's really important. So thank you for joining us. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Brian Stauffenbiel, our creative director, who will just have a quick conversation with a few of our singers for this season.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can. I never know. Great. Well, after hearing that, it reminds me, as more and more I work in this field, how privileged we are to be able to get to know our composers and librettists and interact with them. But an opera would not come to life without our incredibly dedicated singers. And I'm privileged to introduce and talk with a couple of them, 3 of them. And so I'll bring them on one at a time. So this is Bradley Kennard. I'm going to start with you, Bradley. Bradley, you are singing the role of Yoshiro, Mume's father. And
Yes.
You are no stranger to OP, and we're so happy to have you back, by the way.
Yes.
But what's interesting about this doesn't always happen, but when it does, I think it's an interesting thing to talk to the singer about. And that is you were a part of the reading of the libretto and the workshop of the emissary, and have been there through the whole process. So what is that like for you as a singer to sort of see the development of this piece?
Well, first, let me get one thing out the way first. The music is great. Kelly's great. Kenji's great. But the way I'm going to respond to this is like a kudos to Opera Parallel and my experience.
If you insist, Bradley, please.
No, because normally, us also rans, competent but not famous. They bring you for the workshop, and then off you go, and they bring in the famous person or the more well-known. But this time you kept me, and I was more than pleased, and to be there at the beginning of it. But at the end of the workshop, the part that really touched me, I had to go to the car and sit down. So I walk up to Nicole. She's like, "Oh, Brad, good job. Great, great." And this is our Opera Parallel, their official black card. I'm going to tell you why. Because I said, "Oh, I hope you find someone who can do the role, very well." Because the role is a Chinese great grandfather. I am not Chinese, nor am I great grandfather. And Nicole said, "Oh, no, you're going to be a Chinese great grandfather." And nowhere in my mind did I think you would do this part, because I'm not of that ilk. And so kudos to Opera Parallel, because everybody has this colorblind casting. But it's talk. But Opera Parallel followed through with it. And so that's my kudos to you. Now, it is such an honor to be there at the beginning, talk to Kenji, Kelly. "Oh, can we change this?" And the composer is alive where it can be changed and you can ask questions. So this has never happened to me. And it's a great honor to participate. And like I said, kudos to Opera Parallel colorblind casting, and can't wait.
Thank you for that. It was really exciting to see it come together and be in the room together, and I'm really excited about the piece. And Yayoi Kambara directing it for her first time directing for OP, so that's really exciting too. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to talk to Nika next. We've been following your career, the company, and we're really excited to have you doing this lead role. You'll be portraying the iconic Billie Jean King in Balls. Just first off, how is your tennis serve? And after that, what excites you about this role?
Okay, so I have to be very honest. I've never played tennis in my life. I'm a lifelong jock. I've played sports my whole entire life. More into soccer myself, but what I do very much relate to in this piece, and also if anyone wants to teach me how to play tennis and play tennis at Dolores Park with me, please let me know, because I do need to start practicing. I have played a lot of sports, co-ed sports, and I do know what it is like to be put down and challenged, and to be belittled in a sport, and that has only served to make me a very, very competitive person. So I do think, yeah, Chelsea, let's play. I do think doing this piece is going to be very cathartic for me. I also love Billie Jean King as a queer icon, as a beacon of of course, this Battle of the Sexes was before I was born, but I remember hearing about it. It's so important that to see two masters of the sport and see Billie Jean King just destroy Bobby Riggs. And we knew it was going to happen, but they built it up in this very climactic way, where no one expected her to win, but we all knew, she was going to win. So I'm very excited to be able to be a sporty guy for this opera.
Yeah, I think it's the 50-year anniversary of disparity, finally, of women being paid the same as men, and in the tennis field. And Billie Jean was who brought that all together. I mean, she's done a lot of important things. We are so excited to have you do this, and like Nika says, the perfect casting. I'm so excited. Jonathan, so you've never worked with OP, and we have heard a lot about you, and we're so also incredibly excited to have you with us. And I've heard through the grapevine that you've loved this opera for a while, fellow travelers. And I wanted you to just sort of tell us what you're excited about and learning the role of Timothy, what it means to you, and sort of introduce yourself a little bit to us. And welcome to OP.
Yes, thank you first of all, so much for having me. I am so incredibly humbled and honored to be able to work with this company and the good work that you guys do with bringing these underrepresented stories and these underrepresented narratives to life in such a meaningful way, and the impacts of which I've seen even on the East Coast where I am. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. I come from a big family of 4 to 5 kids. But I'm really excited to do this. It's been already put so eloquently, but the Lavender Scare is one of the most tragically undertold and underrepresented stories in American history. The government systematically, socially, and economically ostracized members of the LGBTQIA plus community. And, the fallout from that didn't just affect, those exact members, but it affected the family, the friends, the colleagues of all those people whose, lives were threatened. And ultimately, many of them tragically passed as a result of the amount of heinous acts that were committed against them. And so specifically with Timothy Laughlin, he is this young, charismatic, conservative, religious young guy who's almost having his coming of age at the same time as this whole debacle is unfolding. And to be able to kind of show that narrative, to show that side of him where he's naive and just very much so trying to play into societal norms, and to the point where he falls in love with the man of his life, the love of his life, and the man of his dreams. He kind of begins this transformation where he can no longer exist within the bounds of society. He can't find himself, being a true follower of Christ or God if it means being not true to himself and the design that he was born with and given. And so that's kind of what I want to bring to this character. I want to be able to show, that transformation, that living authentically, living organically to who you are means so much, and not just for you, but for the representation of others and for the freedom of others to feel like they can do the same. And it is far more important than conforming to societal norms and trying to fit in, because the cost is the true weight of what this opera represents, the weight of seeing all your friends and family being put to test, put against each other to try to cull communism in that way. And so that's really why I'm excited to bring a little bit of myself too, and my own journey as a out and proud gay male and someone who grew up relatively conservative and Christian as well. So I really resonate with all this character stands for and what this opera works to explain to others. So I'm really excited, and thank you so much for having me.
I'm inspired already. I can't wait to work with you. Thank you.
I do unfortunately have to go, but
thank you for taking the time to be with us. Thank you, singers. We really appreciate you. And now I will introduce Daniel Harvey, my dear colleague, who will continue the conversation.
Hi, everyone. Just bringing my screen back up here to talk a little bit about the Bullhorn, which is Opera Parallel's community programs. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what the Bullhorn is. It's kind of a confusing name sometimes, but it comes from the inspiration of the late San Francisco supervisor, Harvey Milk, which the inspiration came. We were planning to do the opera of Harvey Milk in 2020. We created a whole series called the Bullhorn series. Then we decided to keep that name because we really wanted to be a bullhorn for our community and take the example of Harvey Milk and the way he used his voice to amplify the voices of others. And that's exactly the mission of the Bullhorn. So we can activate and initiate conversations and also challenge expectations of what an opera company can do or should do, and try to bring in new audiences in a way, bring them into the conversation in a way that's a little more engaging and than just sitting and listening to a lecture. So we put together a whole sort of a range of resources, online resources that are curated by our Scholar in Residence. We have a very fancy new title of Scholar in Residence, who puts together all these beautiful resources that will be on our website. And we do open rehearsals, invited dress rehearsals for local community and school groups, as well as a conversation series with our composers and librettists online. It's all on Zoom. Look out for more information about those coming soon. We also put together community conversations, sometimes at the venues we're performing at, sometimes with partners like the Academy in the Castro or the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, to curate conversations that with the artists from the opera, but also bringing in experts in other areas related to the themes of the opera. And we try to sort of come at it from unexpected angles to really bring a deeper understanding of the themes. So yeah, we put those together for each of the pieces. So keep an eye out on our website, which will have all the information about those events coming up for each production. And I also wanted to give a plug to Expansive, which is our partnership and showcase event that we partner with the Transgender District of San Francisco. If you don't know about the Transgender District, they're the world's first and still only legally recognized transgender district that we're so lucky to have here in San Francisco. And OP is so proud to partner with them and to showcase and create opportunities for transgender and non-binary artists. The photos you see here are from the last event that we just had in August, at the start of August. We did it for the first time in 2022 in June for Pride Month, but shifted it to August this year to mark the start of Transgender History Month, which coincidentally has just been adopted statewide in California, the first state to do that as well. So lucky to live in a place and create work in a place that supports transgender history and celebrates transgender history in this way. And we get to create and celebrate that through music and the artistry of the incredible transgender and gender diverse community that we work with. And you'll see some pictures here of Nika, who was just speaking. They were part of this year's showcase, including that aerial performance moment you can see there, as well as Catherine Goforth, who was part of the winner of the Washington National Opera's True Voice Award this year, and Aya Simone, who's an incredible harpist and multidisciplinary artist from Detroit. And with our incredible host, Africa America, who joined us for the second time this year. You can watch the full showcase from this year's event on our website, operaparallel.org/expansive, and we'll be bringing it back again next year in August to celebrate Transgender History Month again. So I hope to see you at one of the many Bullhorn events this year. It's going to be an exciting season. So let's stop sharing my screen and throw you over to my lovely colleague Eileen Tat, who's OP's Development Director.
Hi, everyone. I'm aware that we're getting close on time and want to make sure that people have time for questions. But I don't want to let go of the very important fact that we could not do the work that we do and influence the communities that we influence here in the Bay Area and as far away as Florida and the East Coast, as some of you have shared today, without the support of our wonderful patron community here in San Francisco. So thank you. Please give yourselves a hand if you've joined us. Thank you for all of your support. We would love for you to continue supporting this company. If you believe in the power of opera to drive civic engagement, to drive public dialogue, to drive our connection with one another beyond Wikipedia pages and lectures, please continue to support Opera Parallel. We are part of the artistic renaissance of San Francisco. Don't believe the hype about the doom loop happening in the Bay Area. We are firmly going against the tide there, and it's thanks to all of our wonderful community of patrons. So Opera Parallel /donate, development at Opera Parallel, and your season mailing, which is coming next week. I am transitioning this month from staff member to superfan. So if you would like to hear more about that, please get in touch. Okay. Ruth.
You're on mute, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I so appreciate everything you've been doing with Opera Parallel these past few years and look forward to our continued partnership. You also may have seen in the chat a little note from our board chair, Jerry Roth. He says, we are so grateful to our donor community. And I just want to thank Jerry as well as the entire board for being so committed to keeping Opera Parallèle not only alive, but thriving and being able to create really incredible and innovative productions and make all these incredible premieres happen this coming season. Every show we're doing this year is either a world premiere or West Coast premiere, and we're thrilled that we'll get to do that. And today was a big launch for Opera Parallèle. Not only were we having you all here, we were also launching our new website, which has this incredible video Daniel's showing right now. And I want to thank Daniel Harvey, who is a just incredibly talented and dedicated member of our team. And he and our marketing associate, Jocelyn Schrader, have spent the last number of months getting this new website ready for us and launching it today, just in time for our new season. And also just want to share that Daniel has been promoted. He is our artistic producer and community director. And we're just thrilled to have him as an integral member of our team. And thank you and Jocelyn again for just the incredible work of making that new website. And so you'll have to explore it, everybody. It's the same address as before, www.operaparallel.org. Lots of great stuff to dig into. We also our new show art today. So we before had this just beautiful logo that you see behind us with this gorgeous green color and treatment of the Opera Parallèle logo. But now you've seen for the first time the work we've been doing with our designer, launching all these beautiful images that represent the stories and music that will be told on our stages. And you'll receive your brochure in the mail next week. So we look forward to hearing from you and being in discussion with you with all of those stories being shared. So we do want to open up the group here to some questions. And if anyone has a question, they feel a little shy about asking it themselves, please put it in the chat, but otherwise you can put your name in the chat and we'll call on you, or you can raise your hand. You'd like to ask a question of a specific person or about a production, whatever you might be interested in knowing about. There was someone who asked a question about, do you know, did the creators of Balls have to get permission from Billie Jean King to use her character in the opera? I don't know the answer to that question. We don't have the creators of that opera here today. But I thought it was an interesting one. Maybe Brian knows. Yes, Brian.
I don't know, but I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask Mr. Little how they came upon the eccentric sport, the Viking sport, and as a subject for an opera. I'd love to hear that.
You know, it's a funny thing. Once you know about it, you'll see it pop up every now and then. Every year, there's at least one New York Times article about birds being smuggled, usually.
Right.
And it's amazing how frequently you'll come across it. In our case, we found it through, Royce Vavrek early in his career was sort of famous for finding things on Wikipedia and then making operas out of them. And this is one of those things. He just found the Wikipedia article and really had this reaction like, wait, this is a sport? Seriously? And we had a commission.
Ancient sport, right? I mean,
it's very old. Yeah, Thomas Hardy has a poem that he wrote about it, which exactly. Quotes. Yeah, so it's a storied pastime in Flanders, and it was really fun to sort of go wild with these characters and the character names, and it was an immensely fun project for us to do, and quite early in our career actually together.
Thank you. We do have a discount code for those of you who are here. And it's for all three of the operas. So you can go to our new website and click on each of the operas are at different theaters. So there's a different box office for every single one of our productions. but for every single one of the box offices, we have arranged to kick off. This is our 14th season, so you'll get 14% off all the tickets. You can go ahead and buy even for next June. The code is OP2324. That's our 23-24 season. And this is for you because you were here this evening and learning about Opera Parallel and our productions of this season. So thank you so much for being a part of our family and for being part of this event this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
To close the evening and to say goodbye, we thought we would give you back again that 30-second little glimpse at our season. And thank you all for joining us. And we hope to see you at our events. And again, thank you for your support.
Thank you.